If I were a Democrat today, God forbid, but if I were, let's say, I drank too much silly juice as a kid or something, and I became a Democrat. Even if, let's say, I'm sort of a progressive Democrat, I would look at what the Democratic Socialists of America are selling, and I would say, that's crazy. You're crazy. What are you thinking? Now, maybe that's just me. And I think it actually is just me because apparently, allegedly, the Democrats don't actually care about what the DSA is doing. And when I say the Democrats, I'm talking about lawmakers or campaign people or whatever. And I think that we can assume that this is accurate, and I'll explain why here in a second. But Megan Romer, I think that's her name, one of the co-chairs of the DSA, the National Party, was on with Chris Cuomo. This after she had already gone on Fox News, and she sort of made waves earlier in the week, last week really, about how, oh yes, we're going to get rid of this, we're going to get rid of that, and everybody's like, see, they did the they did the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. That was before the Sophie Cunningham meme, but anyway, like, my gosh, there she is. She said it. And you think, okay, cool. Well, let's tell her to shut up or get a clue or whatever. They, again, assuming that we're thinking from a Democrat perspective. But apparently, that's not the case.
Democrats have to be calling you, right? And saying, listen, love the energy. Love that you're getting these new voters. Love that you're getting us back in the blue collar business. It's great. It's great. But just, you gotta relax a little bit with the abolish this and the get rid of that. And it sounds too radical. It sounds like you want to destroy our constitutional republic. What do you say?
Well, not a single phone call from a Democratic operative has come to my phone. So I don't know if they're calling somebody. It's not me.
Now, one thing to consider, you might think, oh, she's got to be lying. There is one trait that we have seen so far from the Democratic Socialists of America that is admirable. Just one. And that's the fact that they seem to tell the truth. Now, not about the results, which you could say maybe they're just stupid or maybe they're lying about that. The results of their policies would be, of course, horrible. I mean, just absolutely disastrous. It would destroy, as Chris Cuomo said, destroy our constitutional republic. But when they're talking about what they plan to do, for the most part, they've been unabashed about it. You get a couple of them that get a little uncomfortable and start hedging a little bit, but even then, they usually turn right back around and it's like, oh no, I'm going to issue a correction. No, seriously, there was one, I forgot which, the lady out of Colorado. I think that she was a little bit too neutral in her position about Israel, and so they had to come up with a statement and say, oh no, she sounded like that, but in reality, she totally hates Israel. Don't worry. Don't worry. She's not getting soft on Israel. She hates the Jews. Just stay with us here. She hates them. I didn't read the statement. I don't think it used those exact words, but you get the idea. So occasionally they do hedge a bit, but for the most part, they just come out and say, and that was the viral clip of that Megan Romer, which she was on with, I think, Shannon Bream, and Shannon asked, do you want to abolish the Senate? She's like, absolutely. Wait, what? Seriously? What about abolishing the police? Yeah, as part of our long-term plan over time, blah, blah, blah. What about amnesty? Yeah, as part of our long-term plan, defund, get rid of ICE? Absolutely. It's like, what the? They tell the truth. So I'm not saying that she for sure was telling the truth, that nobody's called her, but it's definitely possible. I would say it's better than 50-50 chance that it is true, that she did go to, do her thing. She's been making her rounds, and not a single Democrat had the courage to say, hey, chill the blank out. You're making a fool out of yourself. You're making it hard for us to support you. You want to get into office, great. You want to get your people into office, great. You can't do it that way. Do they know something that we don't know? And that's the real question here. I mean, seriously, do they know something that we don't know? I think it's possible. I think that they may actually have some sort of hidden knowledge, maybe from Satan himself, that says, hey, you just be bold, go out there, act as crazy as possible, because we're going to have enough young idiots to vote for you. We're going to have enough old blue hair hippies to vote for you. We're going to have enough voter fraud and enough illegals and enough dead people and enough homeless people to go out there and vote for you. You're fine. Just, we got to hurry up. We got to get this agenda out there, and we can't do it by being shy. So tell them, yeah, we're going to take over the Democrat Party. We're going to win elections. And when we have control of the Democrat Party, we're going to push to get control of the entire nation. And when we do, we're going to unite with communist China. We're going to start bombing Israel. We're going to make it, from the river to the sea, get Gaza. Gazans, they're going to live throughout Palestine. And the Jews will have to do whatever the Jews do. We don't care. Till whatever. As far as you Christians, oh no, you'll be dealt with as well. Oh, gun owners? No, you won't be gun owners for long. And I'm not being hyperbolic about this, to be clear. I mean, these are their stated goals. This is legitimately, totally, absolutely, positively what they want to do. And like I said, to their one singular credit, they are at least being open about it. Old Democrats, past Democrats, even the radicals like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they would sort of, they would say things, but they would say it with a little bit of a Democrat spin. It's the other way around now. These guys, they don't care. Now AOC's, she doesn't care. Ro Khanna, he doesn't care. Bernie Sanders, he doesn't care. They feel like they have the upper hand. They feel like they have the control of the base. And they might only account for a tiny, tiny percentage of the base. But if they're loud enough, the sheep will follow. I'm not trying to sit here and just say, oh, all Democrats are sheep. But my golly, they're Democrats. I mean, isn't that sheepish enough? So no, I am not going to call. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, surely she's lying. I don't know. I don't think she is. I would say that it's probably a better than 50% chance that she's out there saying crazy things. Her candidates are out there saying crazy things. And not a single Democrat has called her and said, hey, tone it down. There's the occasional John Fetterman who will go publicly, but I don't think he's calling any of these DSA people. Why would he? They're crazy.
Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only.
By the way, today's episode is brought to you by Promise Grounds Coffee, the best coffee in the world. Go check them out at jdrucker.com/coffee.
I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet.
Midterm elections have traditionally been a reckoning. It's the time when whoever's in control, whichever party has control of the House, the White House, and the Senate, well, they lose either the House or the Senate or both. That might actually change. For the first time since the 1970s, it is possible that the Republicans can retain control of the House and the Senate during a midterm election. And this is because, at least in part, due to the fact that the Democrats are scrambling, they are struggling, they are experiencing financial woes that are unprecedented compared to what they did the last, several elections. 2024, they were able to mount a huge fundraising boost on behalf of Kamala Harris's short-lived and ill-fated campaign. Same thing in 2022. They were able to raise a whole bunch of money, and still it didn't help them. They still lost control of the House, but so be it. They did okay. It was supposed to be, if you recall, it was supposed to be a red tsunami, but of course that didn't happen. I can attribute a lot of that to voter fraud, but that's not what we're discussing today. Today we're talking dollars and cents. We have an article over on my Substack, jdrucker.substack.com, titled 6 Reasons the Democrats' Money Machine is Seizing Up. And when we say seizing up, that's not hyperbole at all. I mean, they are in deep, deep, deep trouble right now. And here's why. So according to the article, the Democrats' National Committee enters the final stretch before the 2026 midterms with roughly $16 million in usable cash after debts are counted. technically they're in the red by 2 million, but whatever. The Republican National Committee sits on more than 129 million, and they owe nothing, zero debt. In super PAC money, the gap is even wider, with Republicans commanding over $1 billion compared to Democrats and their $334 million. That, according to Zero Hedge. This is the same party that conjured well over $1 billion for Kamala Harris in a single truncated campaign less than 2 years ago. The machine that printed political money faster than any operation in American history has seized up, and the reasons why tell us far more about the Democrat Party than any speech from its leaders ever will. The party's defenders have an answer ready. They're going to claim, but we've already raised more than at this point during the 2017 cycle. That was the last time the Democrats were locked out of power in D.C. That defense collapses on contact. Dollars in 2026 do not buy what dollars bought in 2017, and parties are not graded against their own past, but against their opponent. By the only comparison that matters, the Democrats are being lapped. The gap between the two committees is larger than it was heading into 2022 or 2024, and it is growing. So what happened? Before we get into that, I want to be clear. The money gap amongst the committees, that I'll address why that's not as big of a deal as they're making it out to be. It's the dark money gap that is huge. It is tremendous. We're talking about $600 million difference. That's a huge gap to try to overcome. Dark money can buy a whole lot. It's not the same as committee money. It's definitely not the same as direct campaign money. And Democrats are doing better in that regard, to be clear. But when you have the dark money drying up, that's something to really look into. That's something to consider, because it tells us that the apparatus itself may be broken. And that's what we're going to discuss. But first, let's go into the more basic, just the straight up easy reasons. Number one, of course, there's the Harris hangover. Kamala Harris was, in my humble opinion, the worst candidate the Democrats have put forward in decades. Yes, she is worse by far than even Hillary Clinton. As bad as Hillary Clinton was, Kamala Harris was far worse. At least Hillary Clinton didn't run and hide from reporters. At least she seemed to be intelligent and able to handle herself. Kamala Harris never did that. And she had a lot more money than Hillary Clinton had available to her. We'll begin with the most human explanation. Democrat donors wrote checks totaling around $1.5 billion for a 107-day campaign that ended in a landslide defeat and $22 million in debt. Harris had nearly double Trump's count of billionaire backers and corporate sponsors, and it bought her and them nothing. They lost. Bad. Bigly. No investor keeps funding a manager who vaporizes the portfolio, and the donor classes treated the party accordingly. When the DNC tried to lure major givers back with a Harris headline San Francisco fundraiser last fall, most declined, and one reportedly responded with a profanity-laced rejection. That is not donor fatigue. That is a customer demanding a refund. And they're not going to get their money back, of course, because it's when you sink any money at all into politics, you're throwing it in the trash. It's a black hole. Win or lose, it's still a black hole. You could say, but it buys political considerations, and that may be true. But for most of us, we're not going to get a meeting with Republicans that we donate to. We're just doing it because we want to make the nation great again. And yet Democrats, their mega donors, are turning away. They saw what Kamala Harris did. They were embarrassed and ashamed that their money bought nothing, not even a single swing state. It was a blowout, and it stung quite a bit. Number two, nobody trusts the front office. Now, this is something that has been widely publicized, but really only in legacy media. You don't see a whole lot in conservative media talking about this, maybe because we don't really care. But we should, maybe a little bit. Shouldn't care a lot, but a little bit. Nobody trusts the front office. Here's the detail that should worry Democrat strategists the most. The money has not vanished from politics. It has fled the party apparatus. They don't trust the Democrats, but they do trust some Democrat candidates. James Tallarico has pulled in more than $55 million for his Texas Senate run. John Ossoff has raised over $34 million in Georgia. Democrat Senate candidates are outraising their Republican opponents in battleground after battleground. And this is one of the reasons why I say do not sleep on the Texas race and work your butt off in the Georgia race. We can't lose Texas. This would be, I mean, they would almost be okay with not regaining a majority in the Senate if they could flip Texas. Hasn't happened in decades, hasn't happened this century. And yet it looks like there's a good chance that James Tallarico, who I consider to be the most dangerous candidate in America right now, a man who not only harms us from his political ideology, but does so under a false banner of a false god, pretending that it's Jesus. He claims to be a seminarian. Oh, he's a man of God, and that's makes him extremely dangerous from multiple angles, not just the political stuff. With that said, we would love to flip Georgia. There's no reason why Georgia should have two Democrat senators. There's no reason it should have one, and I don't think that it did, but that's a discussion for another day. Referring to voter fraud in the extremely corrupt state of Georgia. Hopefully things will get cleaned up there. Back to the article. Meanwhile, the National Committee starves donors. Donors are effectively routing around DNC Chairman Ken Martin's operation the way traffic routes around a wreck, giving directly to candidates and single race super PACs while the central party goes begging. When your own investors trust individual franchises but not the corporate office, the problem is not the market, the problem is the management. And Ken Martin has been an absolute disaster as DNC chair. Praise God for that. Number 3, the billionaires went on strike. The Wall Street Journal put numbers to the exodus this weekend, and Hot Air's Ed Morrissey walked through the wreckage. George and Alex Soros, who gave the DNC more than $400,000 during the 2018 midterms and over $1 million during the 2022 cycle, have given the committee exactly zero this year. None. Not a penny. Reid Hoffman, the LinkedIn co-founder who wrote steady checks to the DNC for years, has likewise given nothing. Among the donor class, the joke now circulating is that DNC stands for Do Not Contribute. Savor the irony for a moment. The party that spent 2 decades warning Americans about billionaires buying elections is now in crisis because its billionaires stopped buying. The oligarchs were never the enemy. They were the business model. And it's true that these reliable far-left donors, such as Hoffman, such as Soros, the Soroses, Soros plural, they aren't giving to the Democrat committees. They're not currently giving to national super PACs. But don't count them out. Don't think that they're going to remain silent. They're just going at it from a different angle. They're trying new techniques. Perhaps Soros is going back. They're going back to their old style that they employed for decades, which is to focus almost solely on the judiciary, on law enforcement, on going after district attorneys and judges and anybody they can buy at that level so that they can keep crime flowing. Got to keep the criminals out on the streets as much as possible. That's been the Soros way, and perhaps that's the direction they're going. As far as Reid Hoffman, I think that he is going to, and probably is already currently, doing what he can to fund his patron individual candidates and bypassing the DNC altogether. Number 4, the socialists. Can't forget the Marxists. Can't forget the communists that are taking over the Democrat Party. And before anybody says, oh, this is great, this is awesome, this is the downfall of the Democrat Party, I sure hope and pray that you're right. I sure hope that this doesn't come back to bite us. I've seen some strategists trying to do some 3D chess and saying, "Oh, we hope Abdul wins in Michigan because then we're definitely going to win. You know, he polls so much worse." It's God no. See, I'm not a fan of trying to outsmart yourself. I'm not a fan of saying, "Oh, let's go ahead and hope that and maybe even oftentimes work for the radical to win the primary," because there's no way that they're going to be able to win in the general election. That, folks, comes back to bite us time after time again. And even if it doesn't, it's still wrong. You know, you shouldn't. Number one, we shouldn't get involved in who Democrats select. That's their selection. We don't want them getting involved in who we select. We shouldn't get involved in who they select. But number 2, Do not assume that the people around you, the influenceable, the indoctrinated, the brainwashed, that they're not going to fall for the allure of socialism, which will lead to Marxism and communism. But they don't know that, and they couldn't define it anyway. They don't know the difference. I'm not trying to say that a majority of American voters are stupid, but I'm not saying that they're not. Every cycle, the Democratic Socialists of America claim more ground inside the party and city halls from city halls to congressional primaries, and every DSA victory sends another trimmer through the boardroom that once funded Democrat campaigns as protection money. Finance executives and corporate PACs will tolerate a great deal, but they will not bankroll a movement whose stated ambition is to abolish them. I forgot the guy's name. Oh, he's a podcaster up in New York City, and he was backing Mamdani. He was all about, gotta eat the rich. He's all about, he believed in that pedicare tax, and he still thinks it's a good idea, but he admits he got doxxed. I mean, his name and address were put out publicly as, hey, this is one of the rich guys that we need to eat. He doesn't like it, and he shouldn't. And yet he still backs Mamdani and his plan. Again, I cannot stress this enough. Do not underestimate the ability of the forces of evil. And I do think the Democrat Socialists, their Red-Green Alliance, that they are part of, minions of the powers and principalities, the forces of darkness. Yes, I think that there is a satanic force behind these people, behind this movement. So don't underestimate it. Don't be like, it's okay because the Republicans will beat them. Really? Are we sure? Because if we're not 100% sure, we have to treat it as if it's 100% certain that we won't. In which case, we need to make sure that these Democrat Socialists, these communists, are not ever elected, even in their primaries. I don't want to go up against a DSA member in the primary or in the general election. Not this term. Maybe next term. Maybe after we have some better understanding of the enemy, but right now I don't think we're ready. And I have advocated, look, I want to have this argument. I want to have this debate. I want to go up against socialism. Well, we'll call it communism because that's what it is. That's what they're really selling. I want to educate Americans on this. But this election cycle, it is too dangerous. We are not ready. They are surging within their own party apparatus. And so this time, I'd rather the fewer of them, the better. Hopefully we can retain control of the House, retain control of the Senate. Not that Republicans in the House and Senate do much, but it's still better than not having control of the House and the Senate. And then in 2028, we can have the real debate. We can litigate the communism that they're trying to push upon us. And hopefully by that point we'll be ready. But for now, I don't want to face it. Because we don't need the distraction. We're not prepared for it. We don't have our talking points right. We don't even have the right candidates for this. The only thing that's keeping a lot of these candidates afloat is that the Democrat candidates are far worse. But that can only go so far. Again, don't trust your fellow voters. They get it wrong more than they get it right. The party establishment cannot denounce its socialist wing without fracturing its base, and it cannot embrace that wing without repelling its financiers. So it stands frozen while both constituencies walk away. Get woke, go broke was always more than a slogan. It was a forecast. All of this describes donors making choices. The last two reasons are different in kind because they involve systems being dragged into the light. Scripture records what a master says to a manager whose books no longer add up. How is it that I hear this of thee? Give an account of thy stewardship, for thou mayest be no longer steward. Seems to be what's happening to the Democrat Party. People are asking questions and they don't have the right answers. And accounting is precisely what has arrived, and the Democrats' financial machinery was never built to survive one. Now we get into the fun stuff. These last two, this is the real, if you eliminate everything else and you just have these two, Democrats are still in deep trouble. The dark money aqueduct, it cracked. For years, a network of nonprofit management operations moved staggering sums into progressive causes with minimal public scrutiny, and none loomed larger than Arabella Advisors. If you've ever watched Glenn Beck over the decade, he's talked about them many, many times. They stewarded over $1 billion across its constellation of 501c funds. That era is ending. The Gates Foundation cut ties with Arabella last year, and by November, the organization had ceased operations amid dark money investigations, attempting to rebrand as Sunflower Services, and we are going to continue to see them out there. Democrat fundraising totals sagged almost immediately afterwards, which is a remarkable coincidence for money that was supposedly independent of the party. Now layer on the Doge era dismantling of agencies like USAID, whose employees' political donations ran roughly 95% Democrat, and an entire taxpayer action ecosystem that once watered the progressive garden has been shut off at the main. Now, there was only a sentence in this particular article. But let's take into account that this fundraising apparatus that's apparently being destroyed, it almost certainly ran in large part through USAID. If people want to know what USAID really did, it was a money funneling operation. It's very much, I don't want to say directly laundering, but that's pretty much what it is. Money would come from government. Oh, we need taxpayer dollars to buy condoms for the opera house in Venezuela or whatever, because they need condoms apparently. And we need $80 million. Okay, so $80 million gets sent down there, and some dude, their middleman, it's like, hey, he gets the USAID check. He goes and spends $32,000 on condoms. He distributes them with him and his cousins. They get them all passed out, and then they got $79,900,000 and whatever $1,000 left. And it's like, okay, cool. So how much do we keep? They're like, okay, you can keep $1 million of it, and then you can funnel the rest through whoever. Some of it's got to go bribe this official, some of it's got to go bribe that policeman, some of it's got to go to this, but then the rest of it goes right back up, and then it gets redistributed. Not to the people, to the campaigns, to the politicians, to the cousins of the politicians, the crony capitalists, who then, oh no, we're using this money as oversight, or it doesn't matter, who cares, because at that point there's so many points of money being passed out that you can't track it. That's what Doge was trying to do. That's why they basically said, look, this is almost literally what they said. They said, look, we're looking at USAID. We're seeing it at about probably 90% complete and total fraud. So just merge it into the Department of State. Let Marco Rubio handle it. He doesn't have enough jobs already. Let him control it, and we'll just cut 90% of the aid, and the 10% that's actually, because some of it has to be going to something at least partially good. Otherwise, the entire system falls apart. So they did have their token good deeds. Those stay. Everything else gets cut. And then all of a sudden, where's the money? Where's the money that's supposed to go to the Democrats? Where's the money that's supposed to go to the dark money? Where's the money that's supposed to go to the candidates? It's gone. Because taxpayers were funding much of the Democrat Party apparatus through USAID. I'll go ahead and say it plainly for those who aren't catching on. No USAID, and a huge chunk of that machinery is now dismantled. And then number 6, last but not least, my favorite topic, ActBlue. ActBlue is under the microscope. They are the crown jewel. ActBlue processed the quote-unquote grassroots small dollar miracle that Democrats spent years waving in Republicans' faces. More than $15 billion over 2 decades. Today, the platform faces a Justice Department and Treasury investigation ordered by presidential memorandum. A lawsuit from Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, hopefully the next U.S. Senator from the great state. Inquiries from attorneys general in more than a dozen additional states, and a series of brutal congressional reports. House investigators found that ActBlue relaxed its own fraud prevention. It is fraudulent. Their own fraud prevention standards twice during the 2024 cycle. Instructed employees to look for reasons to accept suspicious contributions rather than reject them, and internally identified at least 22 significant fraud campaigns, nearly half with a foreign connection. A follow-up report from the House Judiciary Committee details warnings from ActBlue's own lawyers that the company may have misled Congress about its vetting of foreign donations. But, of course, when CEO Regina Wallace-Jones finally appeared before the House Administration Committee in May, she invoked Fifth Amendment 22 times. Oh, she was a lightweight. Fauci was able to do it, 111 times? Come on, Regina. Step it up. You're supposed to represent the funding arm of the Democrat Party 22 times. What a lightweight. Independent analysts have long flagged the anomalies that make smurfing allegations plausible. Smurfing is where, you'll get it. That includes, you guys are smart. That includes elderly donors on fixed incomes credited with thousands of contributions apiece. Gateway Pundit reported on one such donor, a woman in an assisted living facility whose name appears on more than 69,000 donations. 69,000 donations from a woman in an assisted living facility. We've seen this time and time again. And really, I didn't credit it in the article. But we have to look at James O'Keefe as the guy who blew this wide open back in, 2023? Could have been 22. It's been a while now. But he started going around when he first launched OMG, O'Keefe Media Group. He started going around. He started asking other people to go around, just check the public voting records, and you'll find that there's these people, the people that are living in apartments or trailers that apparently, they can barely afford Netflix, but they're able to donate 4, 5, 6 times a day to various Democrat and left-wing causes, always through ActBlue, never with their own money. They're always shocked. They're always like, wait, you're saying I donated $150,000? I'm on fixed income. I haven't made that much money in a decade. And yet, that's how they were used. That's how they were smurfed. Now, to be fair, it doesn't actually cost them any money. It's just their name, their likeness that's being used. They're just being put out there on public record, with which people can access and find out, oh my gosh, look, check out this old lady. This old lady, apparently she's rich. She's living in this trailer, but she must be rich because she donated $100,000 just in the last couple of years. So she's got money somewhere. Let's go, Bob. I don't want to give anybody ideas, but I'm sure that's happened. Doesn't get reported as that. Then it's not like, well, here's how we were able to target her. Unfortunately, she had no money, but the website said she did. ActBlue said she did. They're evil. Whatever the investigations ultimately prove, the immediate effect is undeniable. A laundering adjacent pipeline. Yes, we're calling it laundering adjacent. Cannot run at full pressure while prosecutors are photographing the pipes. If even a fraction of the vaunted small dollar surge was manufactured, which it was, and it's more than a fraction, then the Democrats have not merely lost a fundraising tool, they lost the myth of a grassroots army that never existed at the scale that they had advertised. They always talk about, we've got 600,000 small donor grassroots people. Really? Yeah, sure. Because according to this, Mary Beth down the block, she represents at least 30,000 of those over the last few years. She seems to be donating a lot of little small donor money every day on her fixed income. These people are evil. Of course, the illusion. That was the real asset. Put the 6 together. All 6 of these reasons together, and a single picture emerges. The Democrat money machine was a lattice of billionaire patronage, dark money conduits, taxpayer-funded adjacency, and a small donor platform now pleading the fifth. All held together by the expectation of winning. Remove the winning, add subpoenas, and the lattice folds. The money did not disappear. The conditions that made the money possible did, and chief among those conditions was darkness. Republicans should resist the temptation to gloat and instead press the advantage where it matters, in sunlight, because transparency is the one contribution the Democrat Party has never been able to accept. The steward has been called to give an account. The books are open, and the donors, it turns out, read them first. Do not get complacent, though. Do not think, oh, we got this in the bag, because this doesn't address voter fraud. Unless Save America Act is miraculously passed, at this point it would take a miracle, then there will be massive widespread voter fraud once again. And it'll always just happen in those close, tight races. Oh, we lost control of the House because of a total combined 73,000 votes across nine elections, 9 campaigns. How do we just barely miss it every time? Ah, shucks, we'll get them next time. Right, John Thune? They might not have the money, but they do still have the structure, the system, to be able to steal elections. That part can get funded. And before we say, oh, look, the Soroses, Hoffman, all these people, they're not giving to the Democrats. Does that mean they gave up? No. And that should concern you. Because, and I'm not making accusations here, just speculating, but what if their money, instead of going to Democrats, what if it's going to systems and strategies that might be able to bypass normal election formats? Something to think about.
Governments don't live together. People live together. Governments, you don't always get a fair word or a fair fight. Well, I've come here to give you either one or get either one from you.
I generally don't talk about the WNBA. I think it's a big distraction. I think it has been for decades. I think it's a total failure, and now it's even worse, but the distraction is coming in the form of the wokeness that is emulating from this league, working against their two most well-known players in the world. And the league apparently hates them. They hate Caitlin Clark because she's extraordinarily talented. Everybody loves her, except for other players, players that oppose her. They hate her. They abuse her. They throat punch her. It's stupid. The rest of the league, they hate her. They wish that she wasn't such a talented player, not because anything she did other than that she's white. And the league apparently doesn't like that their most iconic player is white. So they do everything to minimize her presence. Then you've got Sophie Cunningham, who is becoming a cultural icon, who had the gall to come out and say that boys shouldn't play in girls' sports. She had the gall to, go by science, common sense, history, it just whatever. Then you've got the rest of the league out there. Well, we don't know. We don't want to be discriminatory. We don't. I'm not trained enough. I don't know the science about whether or not there's a difference between men and women. I don't know if boys are actually better than girls in sports. I used to play with. That's an actual quote from one of the WNBA coaches. I have no idea what her name is. I don't watch the sport, but apparently she's like, I used to play with boys all the time. Okay. Well, Clay Travis is offering the opportunity to put your money where your mouth is, or more importantly, put his money where your ideology is. We have an article over at AmericaFirstReport.com. Clay Travis dares WNBA champions to prove their nonsense with a $10 million on the line. You'd think, okay, no brainer, they're going to do it, right? Right? They got to do it. I mean, what does he want? Does he want him to do something crazy? No, they just have to beat just got to beat a high school team, high schoolers, against the WNBA champions. Should be a no-brainer, you'd think. But of course it's not. Clay Travis just called the bluff of the entire WNBA, and he did it with real money. On Monday, the Outkick founder upped his long-standing challenge to a cool $10 million. The defending champion, Las Vegas Aces, get a head-to-head game against a high school boys state title team of Travis's choosing. If the boys win, the money goes to the teenagers to split. If the Aces win, they get to pocket the cash. Now, let's put this in... Oh, and also, it would be on pay-per-view with the profits going to Tunnel to Towers for the families of fallen first responders and soldiers. This should be a no-brainer. Of course, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. They won't do it. They won't even acknowledge it. They're going to pretend like it doesn't exist. But $10 million is a lot of money, especially when you consider that the league itself generates about $33 million annually. So getting a 30% bump in revenue for one game, you just got to win one game against high schoolers. No brainer, right? Except, of course, we all know the truth. We all know that they would lose. They would lose badly. That even high school boys are far superior, skill-wise, physically than the WNBA champion team. But here's the thing. Stunts aside, because this is a stunt, I hope they do it. Clay Travis, I'm sure, hopes that they do it. We all want them to do it. This would be a very entertaining thing. It would be a very, very big event. But they don't want to embarrass themselves further. They being the WNBA. They already are the laughingstock. And here's the thing. They did this to themselves. All they had to do was embrace Caitlin Clark as their top player. Maybe and I don't even know, again, I don't follow the sport. I don't know if she's the best player in the league, but she's definitely the most exciting. And let's face it, it's because she's a white girl. Okay? White girls doing well in this league doesn't normally happen very, very often, apparently. So that's why the league hates her. That's why they abuse her. Other players physically abuse Caitlin Clark in ways that, girls are far more brutal than in the NBA. In the NBA, sure, you might have some fist fights, but you never hear of any massive, it doesn't happen. They don't take it that personal. Oh, those girls, those WNBA star players, oh, they don't like Caitlin Clark. Oh boy, they are physically just brutal to her, to Sophie Cunningham. Sophie Cunningham took an elbow to the face the other day, and she got called for a foul. She got called for the foul, not the player that elbowed her in the face brutally. Looked very painful. Here's the thing, ladies. The league hates you. The players in the league hate you. Most of the coaches hate you. If I could offer some advice, it would be this. Take your talents and leave. Caitlin Clark has already established her fame, her fortune. Maybe not her fortune. They don't pay the players that much because the league doesn't make that much. But she does, I'm sure, has enough money to go start the Caitlin Clark Girls Camp for Basketball. You would get people signing up left and right. So you can make a lot of money off that. Go on tour. Do whatever. Do something. But get out of the WNBA because they don't want you there. You should be the face of the league, and they do everything they can to bury you, so leave. If they're ashamed of you, then why are you still there? Not very big on, from what I can tell, Caitlin Clark isn't exactly like a warrior fighting for her rights. She sort of seems feeble and woke. So she's probably sitting there. And I don't know this. I don't want to make any accusations. My feeling is that she would rather just go along to get along, and she's not okay with it, but she's not going to do anything about it. Whereas Sophie Cunningham, the enforcer, she does stuff about it all the time, and she gets abused too. But she should leave. They hate her, maybe even more now after her crazy comments about boys not being equal to girls. That's crazy. No, she just said common sense stuff, and the league hates her even more, I would say, than they hate Caitlin Clark. So she should leave. She doesn't even have to stay in basketball. She is quickly becoming a cultural icon. I'm sure she can find something to do with her time. They should leave. The league doesn't deserve them. The league doesn't want them there. The league hates them.
You got the moves. I'll give you that.
Generally, when I tell people I'm a prepper, the first thing they think about is, oh, you must have plenty of food and water and ammunition and all that good stuff. And I do. But that's not my big concern. We're good there. I am actually far more concerned about tyranny. I'm far more concerned about the ways that a near future, tyrannical organization, whether it's a government or a public-private partnership or whatever, how they can use certain things against us. Because it's not just going to be, oh, well, I got plenty of food, so I'm just going to keep my door locked and nobody will ever get in, and I've got ammunition if they try to break down the door, and I'm good. It's not always like that. Article over at Survivopedia, one of my favorite websites. I pretty much check out all of their stuff, and they do a great job at it. Let me make it a little larger. Article titled, The New Battle for Your Data, Why Preppers Should Care About Digital ID and Centralized Records. As if we didn't have enough to think about, but this is important stuff. A prepper understands dependence, the article says. If your family depends on one store, one bank, one road, one power source, or one supply chain, you are easier to trap when that system fails. The same rule applies to identity and records. Most Americans now live inside a global web of digital accounts, phone apps, government portals, medical databases, banking systems, cameras, payment records, and online verification checks. Much of it is convenient, some of it is necessary, all of it creates a trail. Let's stop right there. The ultimate way to be a quote-unquote prepper in the modern world is to get out of the modern world. In other words, to go fully off-grid. Unfortunately, the vast majority of us either cannot or are unwilling to do that. And it's understandable. I mean, we grow accustomed to our amenities. We especially when it comes in my situation, we have a certain medical scenario within our family that requires us to be near civilization. Otherwise, I might currently be broadcasting or not broadcasting at all from a bunker in Montana or someplace. But instead, we are here and we are part of society, and everybody has their reasons. If you're watching this, chances are you're not off the grid because you're watching this. With that said, for those of us who either cannot or will not go completely off grid, there are reasons to be concerned. This is why digital ID, centralized records, and tracking should matter to preppers. This is about more than privacy. It is about movement, access, resilience, and the ability to function when systems fail or start saying no. And they didn't even mention the growth of artificial intelligence, which, of course, might trump everything. But let's start with the basic stuff for now. Digital ID depends on the system working. Imagine a scenario where everything is moved to a digital ID. A lot of people are pushing for it, even those who are otherwise skeptical of government, skeptical of authority. They might still be pushing for digital ID because of its convenience, and some have made the argument that, hey, it's safer, it's easier, you have less of a chance of getting your ID stolen. Whatever. Digital ID sounds simple. Instead of carrying a paper card or physical documents, you prove who you are with a phone, an app, a QR code, online login, or a biometric check. That may work well on a normal day, but what happens when your phone is dead? What happens when the app will not load, the server is down, your account is locked, or the record is wrong? A paper document in your hand works without a battery. A digital ID usually depends on a device, a network, software, an agency, and a database. If one part breaks, access can break with it. A prepper should never let convenience become his only path. In other words, don't ditch your digital ID or your paper ID. Keep paper records of pretty much everything. That's my stance. Centralized records create a bigger problem. One connected file can link your license, address, taxes, medical records, benefits, banking, insurance, travel, and online accounts. That can make life easier in some ways. It can also make one mistake more powerful. If the wrong address spreads through several systems, you may spend weeks fixing it. If a medical record is wrong, it may follow you. If an identity file is compromised, the damage may reach many parts of your life at once. A prepper should think about hackers, but also about bad data, lockouts, outages, and policy changes. The more life runs through one gate, the more important that gate becomes. This is the direction that we're heading. And for those of you out there, I think a lot of people are, I'll never get a digital ID. What if you have to? I'm just saying, what if it gets to that point? And it very easily could. And we're talking about years, not decades. It very easily could get to that point to where your only generally acceptable form of ID is digital. What happens in that scenario? Are you going to then go get your bunker? Might not be a bad idea. But what if you can't? What if you're stuck in a system in Western society where everything starts to turn digital? Are you going to leave society? Perhaps. But if you are stuck in society, these are scenarios that you have to take into consideration. So don't just say, oh, I will never get that, because there might come a time where you just don't have a choice. And I am dreading that day myself. Tracking turns life into a pattern. One purchase does not reveal much. A pattern reveals a lot. Where you buy fuel, which pharmacy you use, what food you store, which roads you drive, what time you leave home, which church you attend, which tools, books, filters, radios, seeds, and spare parts you can order, cards, apps, phones, cameras, license plate readers, loyalty programs, smart devices, and online accounts all create trails. I was shocked. It's been a few years now, but I was shocked when I went back, and I don't even remember how I got to it, but I started looking at history on my Google phone, and I realized that it knew exactly where I was on like September 4th, 2012 or something like that. It knew where I was. It knew where I was likely visiting. Like it pinpointed. It's like you were taking your daughter to piano lessons, and I literally was. I didn't tell it that. It just knew, because that's where I went every Tuesday or whatever day it was back then to drop, yeah. The tracking is there, and you can do everything you can to stop it, and I recommend that you should. But if you're going to participate, you have to assume that you're being tracked everywhere. You have to assume that if you're near a phone or a smart television or anything, that you're probably being listened to. You're probably, and I'm not saying that you are. I'm saying you should assume that you are, because there's a chance that you are. You can do everything you can to try to avoid these things in your life, but that doesn't mean that the rest of the world is going to comply. Low-profile prepping starts with reducing the unnecessary patterns. Privacy is normal. It is not criminal. It is discretion is not paranoia. There's nothing strange about wanting fewer people to know what you own, where you go, what you store, how much cash you keep, what medicine or household uses, or your household uses, and when your home is empty. Older generations understood this naturally. They did not broadcast every purchase, trip, opinion, and family weakness to strangers. Modern life pushes people to overshare. A prepper has to push back. Yeah, just don't tell everybody. Keep your physical documents. You get that. I don't have to elaborate on that part. Clean up your phone. This is important. Every app is a possible tracker, leak, or attack point. Delete what you do not use. Turn off location access unless it is truly needed. Deny access to contacts, photos, cameras, microphone, and Bluetooth when possible. Use a strong phone passcode. Keep the phone updated. Avoid logging into everything through one social media account. Keep your phone useful, but do not let it become an open life cabinet for your whole life. Look, I am a big fan of using a phone as a phone. I don't even like texting. I don't have very many apps on my phone, but even then, I should probably, as a matter of fact, we're going to do this today. We're going to go through, I'm going to clean out my phone. Any apps that I don't use, check permissions on everything, deny geolocation and access to everything. And then it's easier to just wipe it, make sure that nobody has access, none of your apps have access to anything, and then go back and give access to what you absolutely positively need to have access to. We can get lured in to the traps through convenience or fun or whatever. And we're very nonchalant as a society. I'm very concerned for us that it could come back to haunt us in the future. Separate important accounts. Do not connect everything just because the system invites you to. Use separate email addresses for different purposes. One for banking and serious accounts, one for shopping, one for newsletters and low-value signups. Use strong, unique passwords. I cannot stress that enough. I have a password system that I'm not going to tell you about because it's my password system. But basically, it's one where, technically speaking, there are 2 digits that are different in every password. Or like, I have one master password, but it's different based upon what I'm using it for. I'm not going to elaborate. And you don't have to go to that extreme, but maybe you should. Maybe you should come up with some quote-unquote unhackable passwords. Because here's the thing. At some point in the future, we will have quantum computing tied to artificial general or even artificial superintelligence. At that point, nothing will be safe. Everything will be hackable. And I'm not trying to be a fearmonger here. I'm not trying to be like, oh, we're all doomed. I mean, if you read your Bible, to some extent, we are all doomed, and those of us who are Bible-believing Christians who have given our lives to Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior, we know that in the very end, it works out pretty darn well for us. But in the interim, it can get very challenging. It is already getting very challenging. Don't think, oh my gosh, we'll get whisked away before the bad times come. For a whole bunch of people, millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people, maybe billions, across the world today, life is already pretty darn hard. So don't sit back and think, oh, don't worry, nothing to worry about. La la la. Anyway, that's a discussion for a different show. Change your passwords. Keep them very strong, and separation limits damage. Use cash and local trust. I don't think I need to elaborate on this one, but I will. Buy locally as much as possible and use cash whenever possible. Minimize your digital footprint. It will come back to bite you. And well, I shouldn't say it will. Anything that you buy digitally, whether it's online, credit cards, whatever, it is all tracked. It is all permanently tracked. There's no erasing it. It's not like, oh, I'm going to remove the data or the whatever, delete a text message or something like that. That's not how it works. Once you buy something with your credit card, it is in the ether for somebody to collect, for somebody to know about forever. Well, I mean, indefinitely, not forever, but indefinitely. You buy something online, I don't care if you're using an incognito browser, if you're putting a credit card or a PayPal or a Venmo or anything like that online, if you're not sending cash through the internet, and I'm saying literal cash, which obviously you cannot, then it's tracked. All of it's tracked. Minimize that. And shop locally whenever possible. I'm a big fan of farmers markets. But don't just stop there. Anything that you can get locally. You think you're going to go buy a rocking chair on Amazon? Go find a local store, pay them cash, get yourself a rocking chair, throw it in the back of your car or truck, or have it delivered. Whenever you can. Check your records right now. I'll wait. I'm just kidding. You can do it after the show. That's an easy one. Do not wait for a crisis to discover your records are wrong. Check credit reports. Review medical records for major errors. Make sure your name, address, beneficiaries, insurance details, property records, vehicle titles, and emergency contacts are correct. Bad data becomes harder to fix under pressure, and especially in this coming digital age. I mean, we're in the middle of the digital age, but when the digital age is thrust upon us in the very near future where we won't have a choice, we won't have options, we won't have a way to not get a real ID or a digital ID or whatever, so be it. Be ready. Make sure everything's correct. Stay functional. Stay hard to profile. The goal is not to live outside every system. Most families still need banks, licenses, insurance, medical care, phones, taxes, and online accounts. The goal is to stay functional without becoming helpless. Use digital tools where they help. Keep physical backups where they matter. Limit unnecessary sharing. Avoid tying every part of your life to one account, one phone, or one provider. A prepper does not reject every modern tool. We refuse to let the tools become a cage. Keep your papers. Reduce your trails. Guard your accounts. Use cash where it makes sense. Build local trust. Stay lawful, ordinary, and hard to profile. Low key. Under the radar. Just a standard average citizen who doesn't buy as much as other people, may be using cash, may not be ordering as much as others. It's okay. In a world built on centralized records, the prepared family keeps enough independence to remain human when the system treats everything like data. And don't forget, all of these pieces of advice, by the way, the author's name is Alec Deakin. All of these pieces of advice aren't just good if government goes bad or if the draconian, whatever. It's also very useful stuff, very useful advice in case catastrophe happens. A meteor strikes, I mean, all you've got is everything's online. Well, what happens if society changes? What happens if something sends us back to the 70s? Oh my gosh, we no longer have access to data. We're going to have to use paper records. Can't call on the phone. We're going to have to use landlines. I know that that's unlikely. I mean, anything that sends us back is probably going to send us back to like the 1870s, not the 1970s, but still being ready for just about anything that you could think of. Nobody can be ready for everything because we don't know what's coming. But we can prepare for those things that do come that we can sort of expect. And right now, I would say the most likely scenario is that digitized everything is right around the corner. It's going to get to the point to where you can't pull out your driver's license. You have to pull out your smartphone. You can't just hand over cash. You're going to have to use some central bank digital currency. Being ready for that doesn't mean just going off grid. Though then again, as I noted earlier, that may not be a bad idea.
This is your wake-up call, pal.